It's here, ladies and gentlemen, the new series from the minds behind True Detective and The Leftovers. It promises to be a mind-bending ride, so I hope you'll join me in discovering the secrets held within. So take your pills and put your helmets on. It's going to be one hell of a trip. The episode begins with a crash course in how the universe came to be. Billions of years of history condensed in under a minute. But the voiceover here, likely read by Justin Theroux's character, who doesn't appear in this episode, pays close attention to one particular moment, how an amoeba mutated and became the ancestor of everything we come to know on this planet. He explains that one little event can have an impact so huge as to change the course of history. What he's preparing us for are the clinical trials to come. Imagine if one drug could solve our sorrows, our deepest insecurities. Imagine how that would affect the course of history. You might also notice he uses the word corollary a few times, almost as if what he's saying to us is from an academic paper he's writing. Annie Landsberg, played here by Emma Stone, wants to buy some cigarettes, but the clerk doesn't accept AdBuddy. AdBuddy is an organization that controls almost every aspect of advertisement. It's as pervasive, if not more, than Google or Apple is today. We'll get to know a little bit more about AdBuddy later on. The clerk says AdBuddy isn't accepted because the National Database of Desires uses it to collect data and control people, a slight jab at companies like Facebook who've been known to sell data to, say, influence elections. Annie jimmies a lock to get some change when we see the newspaper headline, Bladdergate, Milgrim Poopbot Empire in Peril. This is a nod to Owen Milgrim's family, who we'll meet in a bit. She passes men in suits exchanging briefcases. These are men who work for AdBuddy, making their money by personally delivering ads to the consumer. In a cafe, Annie watches a man recollect a story on how he somehow got to Poland and wasn't sure how. But it probably has something to do with the pin he wears on his chest, a symbol that shows up in the next scene. The voiceover continues to pontificate on how we're all connected. All souls are on a quest to connect, and without that connection we feel lost. This hints at what the show is really about, playing on themes of loneliness and man's purpose in the world. A lot of our characters we'll find have lost that connection and thus feel empty, searching for pills to make them feel better. We see an ad for Doxed, a service that helps when your online identity is stolen or revealed to others, before it switches to this one stating, "Everything tastes better when you're together." And look at that, it's the same symbol found on the cafe guy's shirt. On the other side of the post is an ad, "Not All Hugs Are Created Equal," by Dr. Greta Mantelray. She'll show up again later too. Annie passes a Poopbot display in front of Milgrim Industries. A whole ton of garbage is trashed on the sidewalk like it's out of business. Notice here the book of Don Quixote, the story of a man who loses his sanity and decides to become a knight. A man who does not see the world for what it is, but what he dreams it to be. The voiceover ends with the man stating his main goal is to eliminate all unnecessary and inefficient forms of human pain. Something tells me he's connected to Neberdine Pharmaceuticals later on. The Maniac logo appears on screen, looking eerily similar to that of IBM's in the 1980s. A computer company large, cold, and devoid of the emotion and humanity our voiceover guy claimed humanity was all about. We then meet Owen Milgrim, his last name a nod to the Milgram experiments of the 1960s, which gauged a participant's willingness to obey an authority figure, even if it conflicted with their personal conscience. This usually involved the subject being told to administer increasing amounts of electrical shocks to an actor, even if it caused them extreme pain. What they found? Most of the subjects obeyed the authority. Back to Owen, he's being tested for an upcoming trial against his brother Jed. His dad is there helping him, and we learn he's experienced a psychotic breakdown 10 years ago. He recounts his story of how he was hospitalized while playing with a Rubik's Cube, just like the one found outside his offices. It appears he sees his brother Jed when he's not really there. He lies when asked if he knows what's really real, stating he's compos mentis, Latin for stable mind, not mentioning his vision of the water rumbling on his desk. The Statue of Liberty has been replaced with the Statue of Extra Liberty, a winged god threateningly holding a lightning bolt and head. Whereas the Statue of Liberty was a beacon, a light to welcome immigrants from around the world, the Statue of Extra Liberty is a warning. Stay out or feel its wrath. A tour passes with people wearing what seems like MAGA hats, minus the logo. And the tour guide is Russian, all seeming to be a veiled jab at President Donald Trump and the Russian collusion scandal. Notice how their hats are embroidered with the number 47, suggesting the 47th President of the United States, meaning in this world we are anywhere from 6 to 14 years in the future. Also important to note are the fishermen wearing logos of companies, almost as if they've leased their bodies to corporations. A juxtaposition between this supposed freedom of the statue, but being slaves to corporations, the ones who make the real decisions. Owen's imaginary brother Jed arrives, who tells him he's been chosen to save the world. A woman will reach out to him with further instructions, but this is seemingly all a dream as the popcorn he was feeding the birds begins to pop. Owen tries to buy a transit pass but is out of money. Looks like in the future technology has really gone downhill. There's an interesting ad to travel to the moon next to an Ad Buddy's wanted sign. Speaking of Ad Buddy, Owen is accompanied on his commute home by one. They pass a fun sign of the repercussions of attacking a poop bot, while on the train he's bombarded with ads delivered personally by him. Ad Buddy asks if he's considered doing clinical trials for a pharmaceutical company called Neberdine, while Owen envisions Annie in an ad for Daddy's Home, a company that brings single guys in as voluntary husbands for women who've lost their spouses in return for companionship. To make matters worse for Owen, he finds out he's on furlough. Permanently. He throws up in the toilet where even the paper has ads on it. Frustrated, he rips off the dispenser to find the same words his imaginary brother said to him. The pattern is the pattern. Owen listens to a tape in what seems to be some form of therapist who knows all about his mental frustrations, how he needs a partner to finish a mission his brother sent him on, while we see Annie in yet another ad. Whether that's actually her or part of his imagination is yet to be seen. At home, we see he's on several medications and has a self-help book by the same author we saw Annie pass in the ad. The man on the tape says everything Jed says is a lie, trying to ground Owen back in reality. He flicks his pills and, judging by the amount of them in his plant, hasn't been taking them for some time. He receives a package from Neberdine Pharmaceuticals and a call stating that he qualifies as a hero candidate. Notice also the two diametrically opposed ads in the background, one for toothpaste and the other for Jolly Ranchers. He's a candidate to treat those suffering from depression and other popcorn problems. Is he really hearing this, or is it all in his mind? At this point, it should be noted that we can't take everything from Owen's perspective at face value. He's not a reliable narrator. Owen goes to his mom and dad's for dinner, catching the final moments of his brother's barbershop medley. Notice Jed here, not imaginary, doesn't don a mustache. The founding father of the family has a picture of what looks like George Washington behind him, the first president and founding father of the United States. There's a giant painting of the family and Owen's not in it. Jed's fiancée hasn't agreed to marry him until Owen is painted in. She's on meds of her own, and Owen talks about going away with her, starting a new life with new identities. As friends. We're given a bit more info on Jed. Apparently Owen was a witness to whatever scandal he was involved in, and reassures his family that Jed didn't do it. Notice here the rainbow in the painting. One, it's very odd, and two, it fits in one of the Neberdine slogans, follow the rainbow. Owen lashes out at his family, and his father walks him to the subway. He wants to help his son, buy him a home, work for the company like his brothers, but he doesn't want to. Owen tells him he doesn't have to buy him off. He'll be the good son and lie for Jed. Apparently Jed is involved in some scandal involving a woman who his father says is just trying to take advantage of the family. Owen lies to his father, telling him he's got a new job and that he'll be away for a while, but he's really off to Neberdine to be a part of the trials. We also get a quick shot of one of the poop bots in action, leaving a blue sanitary liquid behind. Again, more rainbow symbolism. At Neberdine Pharmaceuticals, he fills out a form when another patient asks him what trial he's there for. He says ULP, which apparently is the big time, where you'll make a lot of money. The bombs on the form mean high risk, hence why you get paid a lot. He watches as Annie storms out of the room, apparently pissed off about something, before he's called into the screening room. There, he's asked to describe in a word the pictures he sees. Pills, a hawk, and family, all things he's dealt with recently. The picture of the family he associates with suffocation. It's quite obvious what he thinks about them. The screener then says she's going to ask Owen one final question, but she just stares at him before the green light turns on and we learn he's been accepted. His defense mechanisms are fungible, meaning interchangeable with another. The screener bows, suggesting there is some sort of Japanese connection, like if you remember the Japanese businessmen out front. Perhaps they are the ones fronting the money for these trials. Owen confronts Anna, asking her if she's lost her husband recently or plays golf at Hilton Head, referring to the ads he's been seeing her in. She's called away when Owen's haunted by Jed. He says Anna is her handler, and that he needs to make contact with her by using the code phrase, "The pattern is the pattern." They are taken deep into Neberdine's lab, where we meet Dr. Fujita and Muramoto. The odd-numbered patients have arrived, and they must continue without any of the old problems. He's wearing a weird headphone contraption around his ears and seems to be sleep-deprived, or just overdosed from the crack he keeps in his drawer. The subjects are escorted to the pod room where they'll be staying for the duration of the trial. The orderly goes over the rules. No intimacy, cohabitation, and any unauthorized absence from the pod will result in the termination of the trial. Owen goes to Annie and gives her the code, but she doesn't seem to know what the hell he's talking about. But as he begins to break down, Annie, fearing she might get kicked out due to his outburst, goes along with it, telling him to await further instructions so they can save the world together. They are then greeted by Dr. Muramoto and Fujita, who will be supervising them. Fujita takes out a cigarette and Muramoto tells them not to fuck this up. Clearly these two aren't the most professional. What will happen as this trial begins? And where's the even-numbered test group? Will Owen receive further instructions from Annie and save the world? We'll have to tune in to episode 2 to find out. Thanks everyone for watching. This show is really trippy and I think warranted an explained series, so I hope you'll like, subscribe, and follow me on this journey. Stay tuned for episode 2.